Hey y'all, what's up? It's Dr. Allison, and today I'm here to talk about frustration. Frustration is such a common feeling. It makes us huff and puff and want to rip our hair out, and it's so frustrating. So today we're going to talk about why you're frustrated, and I'm going to teach you that frustration is more complex than you might realize. So stick around and learn a little bit more about why you might be frustrated. One of the most frustrating things about being a homeowner is that updates and changes, they're never ending, right? And I have to say, it seems like no matter what house project we tackle, frustration is a key emotion for me. That's why we're out here in nature berry picking, because I need a relief from some of that frustration. But I also want to use this opportunity to teach you a little bit about frustration, because I'm practicing this at this very moment as we deal with some frustration with our home. Here's what we know about frustration. Frustration is a member of the anger family. And as I've talked about before on my site, anger is what we call a secondary emotion, right? It's typically a reaction to another emotion. So first we feel hurt, disappointed, betrayed, helpless, overwhelmed, stuck, confused, right? All those emotion words that I encourage people to use. We feel that first. And because that's too overwhelming, too vulnerable, too scary to sit with, we sort of flip it and code it as anger or frustration. So when we're dealing with frustration, the first thing that is important for us to do is to really dig deep underneath that frustration and name what we're feeling. So right now with this house chaos that we're dealing with, for me, I feel helpless, I feel misled, I feel stuck, I feel overwhelmed, and not in a dramatic sense, but a little bit hopeless, meaning like, oh my gosh, is there an end in sight to all of this? So that's the first thing. When I feel myself being frustrated, I use that as a cue, right? As like a ding, a little flag to pay attention and say, Allison, dig deeper. What's underneath this frustration? That's the first step to dealing with your frustration, is understanding it, right? Y'all know how much I love mindfulness. If you don't know what the heck you're feeling, you can't do anything about it. So if you don't dig underneath that frustration to name those primary emotions, you're totally going to be stuck. So that's the first step. The other thing is, frustration usually involves two other things. It usually involves feeling helpless in some sort, right? Like it's out of our hands. So sitting in traffic, waiting to hear a phone call from a doctor, right? The idea is we feel like, hello, I have no control, and we don't do well with that as humans. So that's one part of frustration I want you to tune into, is, do you feel helpless? And the other is, frustration is usually a sign that that emotion that you named, it's been there for a while. So I think sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes frustration is our brain's way of telling us, hey, let's take some action, right? You've been feeling frustrated meeting after meeting after meeting at work. Are you gonna do something about it? Maybe this is something you need to listen to, explore, be mindful about, and tend to. Here's what I want you to know about frustration, right? Think about something that you're frustrated with right now. Got an example? I want you to pause and to dig deep and think what is underneath that frustration. Not who or why, but I want you to name the emotions. Do you feel stuck, overwhelmed, helpless, hurt, abandoned, betrayed, misled, right? Use the emotion word sheet to identify what you're really feeling. And then I want you to acknowledge, is there a degree of helplessness, or has this been going on for a while? Now, that's not going to solve the frustration, right? But it gives you the most info about what's really going on, which then allows you to pick from your coping skills to try to move forward and tend to those primary emotions. If you are trying to deal with your frustration without understanding what's really going on underneath and what you're really feeling, y'all, I'm just being honest, you ain't going to get very far, right? My ability to deal with the feeling overwhelmed and misled and sort of like, oh my gosh, where is the end with our house projects? I can't deal with that until I've named that's what I'm feeling, because frustration sits there like a big old wet blanket and stops our ability to really cope and deal effectively. So think about that situation where you're frustrated and really identify what you're feeling, and that will give you a head start on how to deal with it. I hope this tip was helpful. If you want more good stuff like this, you can check out my website, drallisonanswers.com, or of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel, because then you'll be the first to know about videos. Take care, thanks so much for watching, and start using frustration as a cue and a reminder to pay attention to what you're really feeling. Bye-bye. You guys, look how big these blueberries are! are. This is like the size of like a quarter. This is amazing.